Chandra, could you start by telling us what you saw when you arrived to pick up your son at basically a teen party, correct?
It was a teen back-to-school party. I trusted. My son had been there before. I'm familiar with the Jaycees. As the Junior Chamber of Commerce, it's in a very safe, what I consider to be a safe, good area of Wilmington. It happened at 13th and Scott, so we dropped him off around 9 p.m. The party started at 7 o'clock, but I said he can go for a couple hours. The party was scheduled to be from 7 p.m. to midnight. It was posted that it ended exactly at 12. When we got there, police officers were there working the party, so we felt like it was secure. Police officers were, 2 police officers we saw. Dropped him off. He went inside of the party. No incident. I showed up to pick my son up. There were several police cars outside and a police van, a white van, Wilmington Police, set it right on the back and on the side of the van, and an African-American male police officer was in the driver's seat. When I came, he opened the door and approached and said, is your son in here? I said, yes. My son was here at the party. They had a van full of children. I was approached by another officer and who said, ma'am, your son broke curfew, and we have them all in the back of his paddy wagon. Actually, he didn't even tell me that they broke curfew. He said they're all in the back of the paddy wagon. We're taking them to the curfew center. I proceeded to stand in front of the van. You're not taking my son anywhere in the back of a police van. They had children piled in the back of this police van and in the back of every police car that was there. So it made it...
Approximately how many children would you say?
I couldn't even see. I heard children banging. There's no windows. No windows. It was impossible for me to see how many children were piled in the back of that police van. I just heard people banging, and I heard my son's voice. I asked them if my son was in the back of the van. They refused to even answer me. Didn't ask me what my son's name was. They said, you're going to have to meet us at the Walnut St YMCA. I refused to move from in front of the van. They maneuvered and reversed and got the van from around me. And I proceeded to go to the Walnut St YMCA, where it was just a horrific sight. I mean, multiple police cars, the paddy wagon, our children still in the back of the paddy wagon for no less than an hour. Those children were held in the back of that paddy wagon, banging on the doors, saying that they couldn't breathe. The Walnut St YMCA was full of children, just sitting on the floors, being filed in from the back of police cars. We have about 30 minutes of actual video footage of this incident. It was like nothing I've ever seen. And standing outside of the party, standing outside of the YMCA on Walnut Street and 10th Street, are parents waiting to pick our children up. Children who live in that neighborhood and walked to the party and were scheduled to walk home. And all of these children told us the same thing. Finally, when they filed those children out of that police van, maybe 13 kids filed out of that police van, all 10 years old, one little girl said, 12 years old, 13 years old, a back-to-school party where they were giving away book bags and celebrating the last weekend before they had to go back to school. Star athletes, honor roll students, my son, a Sanford student, Delcastle students, brilliant children, got their very first ride in the back of a police vehicle thanks to these City of Wilmington idiots with nothing better to do than harass these children in this manner. And after the whole ordeal was coming to a close and I finally saw my son a couple hours later, one of the police jumps out of his car and says, do you know why we had these children locked up? Because someone was robbed in the vicinity of 13th and Scott at some point in history. Not at that time, but at some point in history before the party ever began. Someone was robbed in the vicinity of 13th and Scott, where it's a predominantly white area where I would say 99% of the residents there are white. and 99% of the partygoers were young black children, African-American children, or other non-white children.
As young as 10 years old. And
As young or younger than 10.
Now, speak about the curfew, the correlation between the curfew and the party.
So we were told at a couple periods throughout the night the excuse that they had detained all of these children, no less than 30, 40 children, was that curfew was at midnight. Now, all of the children gave the same testimony. We trusted we felt safe when we got there. The police were there. And again, this is all on video. 10-year-old, 12-year-old children are telling us this. The police were working that party from the very beginning. Some said they thought it was the police who actually threw the party as a sting operation. They felt like it was an ultimate setup. An ultimate setup. Why would a party be authorized with police working that party for time and a half? Those police officers were on overtime and were paid time and a half to do this to our children. They worked that party.
Actually scheduled to end.
The party was scheduled to end at 12 midnight. Those police knew it. They were prepared. The YMCA knew it. The Walnut St YMCA knew it. They had multiple staff members inside that Walnut St YMCA with Walnut St YMCA shirts on, blue shirts with the white logos on them. They had it all set up like a holding cell. They had receiving tables. They had desks for different police officers, interrogation stations set up where they had children set up meeting with police officers. Again, this is all on video of them questioning children illegally. Parents were not allowed to enter the Walnut St YMCA. We all helplessly stood out of the Walnut St YMCA while those doors were locked, and police only stuck their head out a couple times. We could see them through the glass laughing while our children sat around on the floor, sat on their hands. One child asked if she could use the bathroom on video camera and was denied an opportunity to use the bathroom. She was outside waiting with a parent for a child that was inside. They would not let that child enter with her parent to use the bathroom. It was a grotesque scene at the Walnut St YMCA, a United Way funded agency. That agency just got $100,000 from the United Way of Delaware to invest in asset building in that community, statewide, citywide, to uplift our children. And these children got their very first ride in the back of police vehicles to be detained and interrogated.
Would that ordinarily even be open at this time of the night? Because I'm familiar with the Y.
Again, these safe havens ended long ago. There is no safe haven or safe place for our children to be at this hour of the night. In fact, again, we videotaped the hours proudly posted on the door of the Walnut St YMCA at 10th and Walnut Street in the city of Wilmington's east side, where we have more murders in that area and more violence than in any other area of the city right now. That building closes at 4 p.m. normally on Saturday. It is still open right now, and it's after 2 o'clock. They're using it as a detaining and holding cell and makeshift police station for children. 10,
so
11,
it was
12
clear that they were set up and waiting for
They were set up and waiting.
Exactly.
This was a well-planned out, premeditated entire operation between the city of Wilmington, the Walnut St YMCA, and God knows who else. I'd love to know who funded that operation. If our tax dollars and the city of, obviously our tax dollars and city of Wilmington dollars had something to do with funding the city of Wilmington, Mayor Baker's subordinates and staff who were there this morning and are still there, harassing our children in the most disgusting way possible.
So there are children there still as we speak.
Absolutely. There are children still out here.
I've heard reports about dogs. So did you see any actual police dogs?
I didn't see any dogs. I was not there at the very beginning when the children first came out. Many of the children, again, live right in that neighborhood and walked to the party, and the police very well know that the most common means of transportation for our inner-city urban children is their 2 feet. Most of them walk to that party with the plan to come out of the party and walk the few minutes home. But it was an absolute setup. That those doors did not open to let those children out into the street to walk home until 12 midnight. The City of Wilmington curfew, as we were told by the City of Wilmington police tonight, was that at 12 midnight was curfew. It was an absolute setup and very likely a sting operation from the very beginning, based on the fact that we have on camera a white City of Wilmington police officer telling us that the reason all of these children are here is because someone in that block, again, a predominantly white residential area, was robbed at some point in history. Not at the time that these, that our children were detained.
That's unbelievable. I mean,
it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, and if we didn't have it on video camera, I asked the officers were asking all of our children their names. I asked each officer their name. Not one officer would tell me their name. I have one officer on video camera. When I asked him his name, he said, "My name is Officer, turn the damn camera off." And he's on videotape quoted saying that. An African-American officer, the driver of the paddy wagon.
Is an African-American officer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how to figure that into the dynamic. That is just one of the strangest things I've heard in history. It wasn't even predominantly white officers, but it was probably...
wait a minute. It was predominantly white officers.
Okay,
this officer just happened to be given the assignment of driving a van load of little children, giving them their first ride in the back of a police vehicle. These children were brilliant. The interviews that we got on camera, this morning are just so heartfelt. They charged some of these. We talked to a 12-year-old little boy whose mother has to appear in court based on the fact that this is his second time out after curfew. It was a teen party. We have the promotional material and information. It's very interesting that none of the adults there took responsibility for hosting the party. And it's very possible that, who actually hosted this party? Who framed these children in this manner?
Well, we're going to get to the bottom of it.
I really hope so. We promised those parents that we would show up. Again, my name is Chandra Pitts. I'm with One Village Alliance, taking care of our children in a very sincere and genuine manner. I live my life by it. I'm sincere about the work that I do, and we will be in court with these parents and these children who were actually charged with the crime of breaking curfew. They illegally questioned our children about a robbery that took place sometime in history.
Well, we're not going to remain quiet about this, Chandra. We're definitely going to take this on a national level.
I truly...
Hold that to our children.
I called Mayor Baker on his cell phone after 1 o'clock in the morning to request his presence and his leadership to direct his subordinates at the Walnut St Y. It was absolutely ridiculous what we saw happen this evening into the hours of the morning. It was absolutely ridiculous. The crowd of parents that waited outside, unable. Parents and children we have on camera trying to talk through glass, communicate through glass, get an idea of what was happening. One little boy said they took his cell phone and threw it on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
A little girl was refused the opportunity to use the bathroom. It was
it's like we're back in the 50s or the 60s. This is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
I cannot believe this is 2012, and it is frightening.
Absolutely. A little boy pointed to the police officers and said, "Mom, those are the two ones that were hollering in my face and bullying me." Two grown men, police officers, more than 240 pounds, both of them. They're on video camera. Do you know that this little boy, 12 years old, teeny little boy, very small for his age, just pointed to the police officers as they ran out of the building, did not address one parent, and jumped into their cars at about 2 a.m. As the little boy said that, both officers jumped out of the car, one behind the other. The driver jumped out angry and said, "Little boy, do you want to be locked up for insubordination?" Ran up to this little boy like a bully in elementary school, while his mother, another adult, mind you, was standing right there. As a matter of fact, the little boy was surrounded by adults. He didn't address the adults. He ran up to this little boy to the point where I had to grab the little boy and put him behind me. And he said, "Did you see what he just did? Do you know what the officer said he did? He stuck his tongue out at me. Are you crazy?" The police officer, 240 pounds, dry, bulletproof vest, gun on his hip, jumps out of his driver's seat because a little 12-year-old boy, 30 pounds soaking wet, stuck his tongue out at him, and he's threatening to again for the second time this morning, lock him up for insubordination. I said, "How dare you? You get back in that police car." And he got back in that police car and reversed down the street and sped off. These officers are given deadly authority, and it is dangerous because these men, they cannot be trusted. I mean, the way this man jumped out of the car and ran up on this little boy.
Now, this officer, can I ask his color?
Oh, he was a white officer. Both of them were. And got in and out of the car about 3 times before that confrontation was over, waiting to lock it. And part of it, he jumped out of the car so quickly and so aggressively, 3 people turned their cameras on to videotape him and got part of it. But the rage and the speed that he jumped out of his car with, no one got their cameras out quick enough.
Right, exactly.
But that is the point that they told us, that someone at 13th and Scott was robbed at some point in history. That is when the cat got leaked out of the bag from the police officer's own mouth to confirm that this, in fact, was a sting operation to question all of these black children illegally about a robbery that took place in a predominantly white residential area that party happened to be hosted in that night. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I'm sorry that you had to endure that, and that your son and that our children in general had to endure that, but we will make it our duty to bring national attention to this so that we get some and people are held accountable.
It is my plea. It is my plea. This cannot happen silently in the middle of the night while people are sleeping in the city of Wilmington. We cannot allow these police officers to. And I brought up to you earlier, Elle, of an incident that happened back when 3 young students were murdered by the Ku Klux Klan. When police officers pulled their car over, detained them, they didn't charge them with a crime. They never made an arrest. They detained them and let them out in the wee hours of the morning, just like our children were released to waiting paddy wagons and police vehicles and dogs when they came out of this party that was scheduled to end at 12 midnight, a party that police knew small children and teenagers were going to be at, and a party that police were paid taxpayer dollars to work and were there from 7 p.m. knowing exactly what was going to happen at midnight. These children and parents were oblivious to what was awaiting them when this party ended during their last weekend before a very long school year.
All right. Well, we're going to talk some more about this. We're going to definitely have this on audio. We have this for the whole world to hear. We are really catching this in your passion as it happens, as it unfolds, and as you tell us, from your standpoint, just I guess less than a half an hour after picking your son up. So I really appreciate you taking the time to share that with myself and allhiphop.com, and we will definitely do our role to break this story nationally, as I said, and just bring the attention to it that it needs to make those responsible be fully accountable.
Absolutely, absolutely. To exhaust that much police force and that many resources to this operation to attack our children tonight is uncalled for and disgusting, and it's inexplainable when you look at the state of the city of Wilmington.
Unprecedented, unacceptable. I've never heard of a group of children so small having an entire police force converge on them for something as petty as a curfew. Absolutely.
It was not only horrific, but it was traumatic. It was absolutely ridiculous. And each child, when they were finally released from that detention center, each child was released with a folder full of YMCA programs and pamphlets for a community organization center that closes at 4 p.m.
Mm-hmm. At that time was a makeshift holding cell, as if they were going to return.
It was a makeshift holding cell. It was a makeshift holding cell. How dare they release those children with pamphlets and brochures for the YMCA in their hand? Every single child left with a folder with that in their hand.
They're going to have to explain why they were even there at that time of night.
It was disgusting. And who funded that operation? Is this where the United Way of Delaware dollars are going? Is this what we're calling asset building? What are we doing? What are we doing, City of Wilmington? How are we really being a voice and uplifting our children in the city? How do we even feel about this? And how are we going to show that we are not going to tolerate anything like this going unexplained and unanswered? Accountability is the key word here, Elle, and I'm so glad that you took the time to take my call after 2 o'clock in the morning.
Not a problem, not a problem.
I called Mayor Baker well before I called you, and Dennis Williams, some of the political figures who have professed a vested interest in our children. And I have to say, Alberna, you're the first and only person to answer my call tonight, but this is not over, and this is not the last that the City of Wilmington will hear from me.
All right. Thank you for speaking with us, Chandra. And definitely in our thoughts and prayers, and we're going to fight this with you together. And we just deserve resolution, and we deserve answers, and we deserve for our children to be treated with dignity and respect. And we're going to get to the bottom of this.
Our children deserve it. You're so right, Elle. Our children deserve love and respect. You're right.
All right.
And they deserve for us to work together to get to the bottom of this. So I thank you for your commitment and your promise to make sure that we hold those accountable who funded and orchestrated this unfortunate incident this evening.
Absolutely. God bless. I'll speak with you soon, Chandra, and we